Hi, friends. You've got Pete and I today, and this is really cool because while we're recording this, it is the middle of the World Series, and Pete has athletes both on the Jays and the Dodgers. Plus, the strength coach for the Dodgers is a product of the CSP internship system. And as someone myself who does not follow baseball to the same degree that Pete and many of you do, I just think it's really cool how our gyms can touch so many lives in such a ripple effect that we honestly don't always see on day one. So it's kind of cool context for doing a podcast together today, Pete.
Oh yeah, and the thing about all of the people that you kind of loosely mention here is that there isn't a single one of them that I had tabbed as definitely going to be even a professional athlete someday, let alone in the big leagues, or an intern who came out of our system and was going to make that climb. It it's pretty mind blowing, and so I'm reminded repeatedly that the people with the big scouting report, for lack of a better term, are rarely the ones who end up panning out. It's the people I never would have guessed. So we kind of got to treat everybody with the mindset that they all have that same long-term potential, because I'm so wrong if I try and tell you who the best intern will be as far as career success goes. I've swung and missed so many times on that.
That's a very, very good point that applies to all of us.
Yeah.
Well, the other cool piece for today is you are currently what, day two, day three of being in your new facility. And today I wanted to talk about some of the things that have gone well and maybe some of the things that you had some unexpected curveballs when it came to moving facilities. Because it's, a lot of our listeners, I think, and sometimes members, it's easy to be like, oh, this person's been around forever. They're well known. Everything's going easy and everything's going right. And, knowing you the way I do now, like, I mean it with love, but that's not always the case. So I want to hear, like, what did you learn? What's gone well? And how did you prepare appropriately so people in the same boat can get the same results?
Well, we're still in the weeds for sure. In fact, we are, let me see, looking at the clock, we're 90 minutes into our first day of training sessions here in the newest CSP. I'm not going to call it CSP 2.0 because it is actually, this is the fifth iteration of a flagship location that I've set up since 2007. And I think I learned a lot in the process of doing this multiple times before. Granted, the last time I did it was 2012, but there was a point yesterday when we were almost 72 hours in where a couple of my colleagues looked at me as we were taking a break, honestly getting our asses kicked. And they said, "Is this worse than ever before?" And I was like, "This is considerably easier than I remember it." We've got more sets of hands. The things that suck about this, I knew they were going to suck. Like, I knew that moving those horse stall mats was going to suck, and cutting them meant that I was going to be all bandaged up. I have multiple band-aids on my hands from cutting myself with utility blades, but I think it's just, I've compounded experiences doing this. I'm desensitized to the pain of it. But I'll tell you, I just got a small win that no one else would think of, but we have all this turf down in the old space. We had 45 yards of sprinting turf. We had 2 pitching cages side to side, and we had them glued down because, listen, new gym owners, if you buy yourself some new turf and you're like, this shit's really heavy, it was impossible to lay out, I don't need to glue it down. It's not going anywhere. I'm telling you, glue it down. Because
Yes.
when we didn't glue it down, we would buy a new roll of turf, I would say every 24 to 36 months. And we were like, well, this is just the cost of doing business. And finally, I bit the bullet and I'd say doubled the spend and had like a 2017 iteration of turf put down. And that's the stuff that needed to be ripped up today, because it's just the lifespan is wildly extended when you do it the right way. Shocker, right? But
Yeah, sure.
the win in this, I have a riding floor stripper scheduled to be delivered. Well, it was scheduled to be delivered a half hour ago. And I have a 4-hour chunk of my day time blocked today on Halloween. I have 2 kids. It's Halloween. This isn't a good day for me to be riding this device and stripping up turf so that we don't lose our deposit on the other space. But my lease is up as of today. I get a call from my guy, Ken, one of my employees who went over to do some last minute stuff this morning. And he's like, all the turf's gone. I was like, what do you mean the turf is gone? And he said, the new tenants are so excited to get in here. They pulled it all this morning. It's been disposed of. It's in their dumpster. It's gone.
Holy
And
crap.
I called my rental company and I was like, hey, I understand if I got to eat the rental fee, but I can't take delivery of this. I don't know if it's left. And she's like, we're loading it now. You've rented enough stuff from us. I'm going to take it off the truck. You're good. Don't worry about it. So I got 4 hours of my day back. I got my rental fee back. And if the former landlord comes at me and says, we're holding your deposit because we paid to remove the turf, I'll say, I own that space until 11:59 p.m. today, and you went in without my permission and stripped that shit off the floor. And so I got a big, big win today, if we want to talk about random wins, but got one.
I think there's a lesson in here about like, even when you own a large, objectively successful gym, there's still stuff where like your plan today was to ride a floor stripper for 4 hours to not lose the deposit on your gym.
Yeah.
And it's a,
Well, and that
like when
definitely holds true, I'll say, in a bunch of different realms. And I've seen it for about a month straight as I've been in this new space. We are leaving a facility. I've complained about this on the podcast before. We're leaving a facility that was owned by a massive holding company, millions of square feet of commercial property in their portfolio. We're just a line item on their ledger. They just could give a shit about us. We are coming to a facility where I know the whole family that owns the property. They own a lot of property in town. They're like a mini micro version of that huge one. They've got, I don't know, 10 or 15 buildings in our town. But every time they drive by and they see my car out front, they pop in and they're like, you need anything? You want to use the forklift? Do you need to use our scissor lift? Can we send somebody in to help? And they're mom and pop. And as we were getting down to the home stretch here in the last week, I'd come in and my landlord, Jim, would always be here. And I came in the other day and I look and Jim's got a tool belt on. And I shit you not, he is framing out our new bathroom. And I was like, what's going on? And he's like, well, one, I'm licensed to do this. And two, I work with idiots. My contractors aren't going to show up until tomorrow. And I need the tile work to be done tomorrow. So I'm doing this shit myself. And I was like, I texted Eric and John immediately. I was like, guys, we found the right landlords, because that is the landlord equivalent to me going in there with that floor scraper tonight. Owners aren't above doing what needs to get done by a deadline. You just do it because this is small business. We're not a corporation. Well, someone might have incorporated that way in the gym industry, but it's not us. And so I don't know. It's just, there are no jobs that are beneath us. We're all going to do shitty work during shitty hours to get this thing across the finish line, including Eric Cressy was there. John always tells a story about 2014. He was in our intern class in our first Florida facility. He laughs that we have a video of Eric throwing a porcelain toilet off a loading dock into a dumpster the day before we got up and running. Eric had himself a nice big audience at that point and was supposedly some sort of fitness influencer. He was there getting his hands dirty. And so we've all got to do it. And I hope there isn't some assumption that because I'm one of the owners, I skip those things.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have to the point of cuts on your hands with utility knives. When we ripped out turf in our space a few years ago and put down more horse stall mats, because it was the right thing for us. And while I was cutting one of the mats, it's me and Katya's dad are doing this on like, I don't know, Friday evening or something, because we got to get it in for the sessions the next day. And I'm cutting the horse stall mat, which is a huge bitch, as you know, and many other people will know. And the utility knife snapped, and all the force I was using, I ended up stabbing myself in the thigh. Oh, and I know it wasn't that bad, but I ended up, I had to get the job done because I'm like, shit, we're on the timeline here and it's already evening. We got a lot to go. So I just duct taped it and paper toweled it, which I'm not recommending. And then I'm like, God, Canada has free healthcare, but if it's not like life threatening, you're in the waiting room for a very long time. So I text my buddy who's a doctor and I'm like, can you stitch me up? Are you at home? So there's a photo of me on the internet somewhere of me sitting in my friend Digby's kitchen in my underwear, because I stabbed myself in the thigh and he had to get to it, with my leg cut open because his terms of giving me very quick response healthcare was he thought it was funny and had to get a photo, and he stitched me up in his bathroom. And then I went back to finish the job. Now, this isn't like a we should all be tough kind of thing. It's just that like we got to do the shit. And I think there's a lesson here, kind of twofold, that you're sharing. One is, regardless of optics, the owner is not above it, at least in most well-running organizations. And two, something that sounds like it just worked out really well, is having a really good relationship with the landlord, of people who give a shit. Like, this is going to be a home for a long time.
Oh,
Sometimes
that
you
is
got to
everything.
rent from the big holdco and you don't have a choice. But if you can find a landlord who actually gives a shit, like my landlord gave me his truck so I could move my equipment into his gym, like a big F550 with a big box on it. Like, you're in a place where if something goes wrong, you can call the dude and have a beer with you to talk about it.
It is everything. Maybe the best piece of advice I can give. Go with the landlord if you have the choice between the big option or the small mom and pop one. Always go with the latter. And we had the same thing. I have a pickup truck parked outside our loading dock right now that belongs to Roger, who's one of the owners. And he said, just you let me know when you want me to come get it. And I was like, no, Roger, we will bring it back to you. You don't need to figure out rides and come get your truck. But he's he's all in with us. And you know what I do? Roger and I have a pretty much every day of the week argument for the last 2 months. Since the day I signed that lease, I won't charge him. And let's say Roger is very comfortable. He doesn't feel not having that pickup truck. He's got 6 more vehicles waiting. But it drives him absolutely bonkers that I will not swipe his credit card for his training. And to me, this is just part of that game. Roger, I'm not charging you. I'm not charging Jim. I'm not charging Kathy. In fact, his son-in-law's been training and Roger doesn't know it, but I'm not charging him either. And I just think there's so much goodwill to be gained there that a couple $1,000s of revenue isn't going to be a deal breaker for me if it means that when I'm in a panic and we're in a pinch or our plow guy didn't show up or something, I can call them and I know that they're going to scramble and be like, we got you. Let's go to our network. We got you. And so it's imperative to me that I'll tell you a story that really connects this. Back when I started kind of doing the fitness lecture circuit, I found I was routinely out there with Alan Cosgrove, and we were traveling. We were in England speaking at this really cool event. And he's like, you ever travel abroad to give a lecture? And I was like, no, I've never crossed borders of our country to do this. Any advice? And he's like, I don't have any international advice, but I'll tell you the best piece of advice I can give you as a public speaker is always aspire to be the easiest presenter for the event organizers to deal with. He's like, if they ask for the slides at a certain day, deliver them 2 days early. If they ask for you to send an invoice for something, send it the minute you read that email. If they ask for your meal request at an organized dinner, do not read that email twice. It is a touch it once. Be the person that makes their life easier, and you will always get invited back. And I want to apply that mindset to my landlord. I definitively want to be their favorite tenant. I want to be the one. I had them come in this morning and I said, are you going to be back this afternoon? And they were like, we can. Why? And I was like, I'm having internet connection issues and I'm having a hard time paying our first month of rent online right now. And I have absolutely no idea where our checkbook is. Like, it's in a box somewhere upstairs right now. I'm going to find a way to pay you. But if I have to, I'm going to the bank to get a cashier's check and I'm going to come and I'm going to hand it to you. I just need to know where you are because I will not pay our rent late on the first day. And they were like, you don't need to pay us until the end of next week. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. I'm going to be your easiest tenant. I just need to know where you are this afternoon so I can put this in your hands. And it'll pay off so many times in the long run.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I could share so many stories like that, but I think the point's really well made that, yeah, you can create friction on the small stuff that ultimately doesn't matter. Or, if you're playing the long game, karma, the universe, call it whatever you want, like it bounces out in spades.
Well, and you also need to remember as a gym owner that landlords are typically fairly connected in their town. They're the ones who deal with all of the administrators in town. They're the ones who talk to the zoning committee. They're the ones who deal with the inspectors. They're the ones who know all the vendors. I mean, my landlord made a connection for me for a dumpster that cut my annual dumpster cost by almost $2,000 in the last 2 weeks. And I just
Wow.
wasn't expecting it, but he had a guy. And so that is a great reason in and of itself, just to leverage their network very quickly. You got to play really, really nice from early on in the game.
Yeah, that's a great point, Pete. Well, I'm curious because as you're thinking through this, and I think it's actually a good thing that you're in the weeds of it now. Like, what else is coming to mind as either something that's gone really well that you were intentional about and you'd recommend others follow the same principle, or maybe something where like shit went sideways and in hindsight, you've got some lessons to share?
Oh, I think that what has gone really, really well is that I've had to learn to just like seriously trust and delegate. I had my mindset very thoroughly on how I was going to handle the extraction process of all the stuff that happened this morning in the last, honestly, 48 hours in the other space. And as crazy as it sounds, after being in that unit that we just left since 2012, I have not been in it since Monday morning. I just I kept finding that I didn't need to go back, and my stuff just kept getting packed and coming over because I enabled the team to say, "Hey, I trust you. Mark stuff as well as you can and get it over here." And had I followed my instinct of micromanaging the shit out of every step in this process, they'd all be standing like on the loading dock looking at me waiting for their next assignment. So the best thing I can say is if you trust people enough to take care of your people, your clients, then if you're moving your gym, you sure as shit better be able to trust them to make a decision on where to put some shelving they took off the wall, or you know who signs for the last box that got delivered to the old space, or who's going to answer the questions when the new tenant shows up and asks you about your timetable. Like, that's the best part. It's realizing that they're all very good at this stuff. If you hired them, they're all probably fairly detail oriented and driven by simple initiatives. Just letting the team do the thing probably better than me has been all the difference in the world, because I've been able to just say it's imperative to me that the front office look immaculate when people get here. I need the merch to look good. I need the accent wall to be painted. I need the logo to be level, and I need it to smell like it's been freshly cleaned and vacuumed. That's all I'm going to do today. I know there's a punch list of 1,000 things that need to happen in the rest of the space. It's in your hands, John. I trust you. Do you trust me to do the front? And that has been the game changer, because I'm just not getting in the weeds with stuff that we have other sets of hands for.
Yeah, that's huge. You're really picking your battles and making sure the things that are imperative are done well. And even if you aren't in a situation where you have maybe the same level of trust with your team and you don't have a number two, I just want to make the case that even if things were done 10% worse than you could have done it yourself, you still got 90% and freed up a ton of capacity to make sure that the big rocks were set. So when you're, 98 minutes now into your first day of training at the gym, you can actually be in that first day of training, not worried about like, did we get that cable for the printer put in the right box? Like, big rocks here.
Yeah, I'll give you another example of something that I've learned. I didn't have to learn it this time, but I'm applying this lesson this time because I've been burned in the past. And that is, as much as we fall in love with the footprint we've designed, or the dream, the vision for the space, it comes back to that Mike Tyson quote: "Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face." Um, I have not allowed anyone to secure a piece of equipment to the ground, to fix certain things on the walls. Like, for example, our med ball area is currently it ultimately the med ball area gets painted black because the wear and tear of med balls just slamming against the walls. It just White walls look like shit after a while. But I just
Yep.
can't paint that accent wall. I can't mount those med ball racks until I know that I'm not going to have our new next door neighbor coming in and being like, "What the hell?" We
Mm.
might need to pivot. We might need to adjust. So we have I'd say a 10 to 14-day holding period where the gym may wholesale change. The power racks are going to shift around a little bit the next couple of days while people rack and unrack weights because I haven't fixed them down. And I won't until I'm absolutely certain I'm comfortable with the way we have the place situated. And I've got burned on that in the past. And so understand that your business needs to, like, everything needs to settle. Everything, we need to see how people utilize the space. We need to look and ask ourselves, is foot traffic logically moving the way I expected it to when I had this master vision? Or are people just walking like a diagonal line through the deadlift platforms and under one power rack to get to a warm up area? And that stuff, like, as much as we think everyone has common sense and is going to follow the most logical pattern, well, common sense isn't that common anymore. And we need to protect ourselves against the downside of that. And that means we are in our probationary gym layout period. It's a trial run right now.
Yeah, it makes me think of like go to any college or university campus and you see a field with a sidewalk or something at a right angle, and then you see the dirt path through the field. Option one is you can pave that path because that's where people are naturally going and lean into their default tendencies. Option two is you can fight it every day of your life. And if you don't fix down the equipment, you've got the flexibility to be like, hey, seems like everyone's naturally doing this and it's a lot better of an idea than I had in my head. So let's roll with it.
Exactly. Yeah, the rest, I mean, I don't know, Ben. I'm going to learn a new lesson in the next 10 minutes. I'm sure once we get off this call, I'm going to come out and someone's going to be like, hey, we got a new fire for you to put out. And that's what this is. It's triage and firefighting. But I said to someone recently, I said to Mike Boyle via a DM, I put up a post recently, and he said, it's looking really nice, coming along good. And I said, basically, if I could just design and move gyms for the rest of my life, that's all I do. I like this. I like envisioning what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
But who knows? The hard part, I think, is behind me at this point. And
Good.
honestly, my team has just kicked ass for 3 straight days. They've just been hustling in every direction, and each night I've had to send people home, and each night they've said, we're not leaving until you go. And I was like, well, you gotta leave. It's time. Go have a normal life. And that's just how you know you got the right squad. They're in it with you. And nobody was asking like, when do we get to punch out? They're ready to go as late as we had to. So I'm feeling really good about the not just the space, but the team that's going to command it. So we're in a good place. I'm pretty excited. I can't wait to give you an update when we get to our annual planning at Keeler's house. And I'm 5 weeks in, and I can actually say to you like, this was the move. This worked, and hopefully that's the case. And I'm not like, oh, if I could go back in time. But right now, I'm feeling really good about it.
Maybe we'll do a follow up in a month or two for the hindsight stuff.
Yeah, the
Well,
first thing you should ask me is, are the power racks where you thought they were going to be? Where are the med bulbs being thrown right now?
that sounds good. Well, I want to let you get back to the next fire, but something kind of stands out to me, maybe kind of like a third lesson in here. Kind of the common thread through everything you've said is like you, and this is typical for what I know about you, but like you've really put the people first. You're doing your best to be a good tenant. Even when you called the floor scraper people, the words you used were, hey, I understand if I'm going to have to eat this rental cost, but I actually don't need the piece of equipment anymore. It wasn't, I don't need this anymore. Can I get a refund? Or it wasn't, I'm imagining the thoughts in your head weren't like, am I going to get my money's worth out of my staff, helping them, getting them to help me move? It wasn't, is John going to fuck up that thing with moving the back end of the gym? Like, you've consistently like always trusted your people, but it's not blind trust. It's a true belief that by doing the right things for people, things will come around the right way, even if it doesn't happen tomorrow or every time. That there's like the word I want to use here is leadership when it comes to like interacting and managing the people that you're with. You've created a culture where they can step into those roles so that you can trust them, rather than if you're micromanaging, they never ever get an opportunity to shine. And whether it's small stuff like the dude framing the bathroom or making sure you get the cashier's check because your internet sucks, or the big stuff, trusting your team to make sure 13 years of accumulated stuff appropriately makes it over to the new space. There's a thread there that you never know when that leadership, you don't be a good leader so that you get a kickback in the future, but you get a lot of other benefits by putting people first.
Yeah, I guess the term that comes to mind is servant leadership, but I don't like assigning that title because it feels douchey. I don't know. Like, I never want to look people in the eye and be like, I am a servant leader. How can I serve you? Um, I've just never got burned by putting someone else's interests ahead of my own. It, I've never come to regret that in a professional setting, or in the circumstances that it did happen. I've allowed myself to forget it because anyone who's going to take advantage in that way isn't someone I want to surround myself with. And it's
Mm.
really easy to mentally move on from, I always say to people when they're like, what happens when an asshole shows up in the gym? Do they disrupt your culture? And I say they usually filter themselves out by the end of month one. They just don't re up and we don't chase. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's not great for attrition. Or, I mean, if we're going to like have a panic attack about retention numbers because Pete said, let the dickhead walk, that guy sucked. Well, I can absorb that figure, that KPI not hitting a mark in a given month because I know that long game, one bad apple is going to spoil the whole thing. So I don't know. I guess the takeaway is running our business, man, is just like raising our kids. It's like you look them in the eye and just say, treat other people the way you want to be treated. This is going to work out for you. And then you say that 1,000 times. And so uh, all I'm trying to do is run the place following kind of the norms and guidelines that I'm hammering home with Colin and Owen every day. I don't want to have a moment, and there are moments in my life where they do this, but I don't want to have a moment that I could have controlled where my son looks at me and he's like, that's not what you say at home. Why did you behave that way? And the
Mm.
beautiful thing about kids is they have no filter. And my son Owen, especially, a little 9-year old, when I'm being a hypocrite, he could not call it out faster. And just like he is a sleuth when it comes to finding hypocrisy in his parents' habits. And so I guess in a sense, like the way that I act in all of those professional relationships is just a kind of like, would I be proud of this if my son was watching how I handled that last thing? And I don't know, it seems to be working. We ended up, I've told you time and time again, this situation, this move has been this unbelievable stroke of good fortune. I mean, we had a bad lease. Our neighbors asked if they could buy it out from under us. I told them I didn't think we could find a space that was going to meet our needs. I found it by the end of the day because I had good relationships with these clients for long term. Then it was, oh, we've got all kinds of leverage. We should really see what that their urgency to get into space is going to mean to us. And suddenly I had them paying for our turf and our cages and our relocation, and we didn't finance any of this move. I didn't take out an SBA loan. I let my last landlord pay to get me out so that he could extend the biggest tenant in the building. They wanted my space. We found an opportunity to leverage it. And my wife is a wizard in negotiation, so I had her coach me every night at the dinner table. And next thing you know, we've got the people who own the building spending 100 grand to tell us to kick rocks. And so, and my rent went down. And so, all in all, like these things don't happen to people who burn bridges every step of the way.
No.
You know, good luck favors the nice people as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah.
be nice.
What comes to mind for me, you mentioned you had incredibly good fortune to find that space, but this is a perfect example of is preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
You didn't know you were preparing for this move by being nice to people because that's part of your nature. And then when it came where it's like, hey, there's an opportunity here, you had your wife coach you at the dinner table to make sure you could nail the negotiations. Like it's not like you didn't know this is the way it was going to go, but it also wasn't an accident.
No, exactly. And had I not had such a strong relationship with these people who were just clients, that's all they were, um, they wouldn't have moved mountains to get us in here. When I told him I was in this spot, I actually said, "Have you got any property in town that you're looking to develop? We might need to make a move fairly quickly, and I'm interested if you got a building that you're willing to clear out, or you got some space where you could build. I don't know how fast I'm going to have to turn this, but you're the first person I think of." I'll tell you, he said to me, "We have a letter of intent from a candidate for a space across the street that I know would be a better fit for you than for them. And their requests require that we spend a ton of money to outfit the space to make it viable for them that I know you wouldn't need us to spend." And he's like, "So I can walk away from a letter of intent if I need to, because I know you guys are good people. You're going to pay on time and you're going to make us proud with how the space looks when you're finished with it." And he wouldn't have done that if I was just chasing him for money and shouting at him because he was late for, he had a late cancel or something like that. It all has a trickle down effect over time.
100%. Well, I think this is as good a place as any to leave it, Pete. So I wanted to say, well, first, congratulations on a successful move.
Thank you, sir.
And yeah, thanks for sharing the lessons. Looking forward to getting the next ones once you're a little bit further away from the minutia of what's going on today.
Yeah, exactly. We will revisit this before the end of Q4, and I'll tell you all the things I screwed up between now and then.
Deal. Well, thank you for your time, Pete, and I'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon. See ya.